Welcome to Bark and Jack, I am Adrian, and today's video is going to be slightly different. It's going to be a long one, so grab yourself a coffee, and we're going to be catching up with this guy.
Hi.
And this guy.
Hi guys.
We're going to be talking COVID, football, and how these guys are banding together with a lot of their mates to create a bit of an army to take over the world. That's literally what they're doing. Chaps, how are you?
We're good. Good, yeah. How are you lot?
Good. I'm relieved that this is working so far. Touch wood.
Yeah.
I can see you. I can hear you.
Where are you based now, Mike?
I'm in on the Oxfordshire, Buckinghamshire border, so about 20 miles from Maidenhead.
Oh, right. I'm just down the road in Surrey.
Chelsea supporter, are you?
I'm not. No, my dad's a Liverpudlian, so I've always been loyal to that. And yeah, a big Liverpool fan.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Yeah. Game over.
Oh, no. Well, I was talking. We had a board meeting earlier today. I'm an Evertonian, born and bred, and of course, one of the great days for celebration, and there haven't been that many of them, unfortunately, is when Liverpool lose at home and Everton win away on the same day, and of course that happened yesterday. Yes. Yeah. So sorry about that, mate.
No problem.
We've got two smug guests now.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Roger Smith OBE, could you introduce who you are and what you do for the handful of people who don't know?
Yes, so I'm Roger Smith, and I'm a watchmaker based on the Isle of Man. And I've been, about 30 years ago, I started on this sort of bizarre quest to hand make watches in the same sort of vein as George Daniels. And this sort of quest led to me coming to the Isle of Man to work with George Daniels after making a couple of pocket watches to show him. And today, I'm running my own business. We have 12 people in the business, and we're making, I think, about 14 pieces a year.
So is that
14 wristwatches.
floor?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're very labour intensive. It's all about this sort of trying to make everything in house. So we make our own cases, dials, hands, movements, movement components, and it's often easy to say the parts we don't make, which are the jewels, the balance spring, mainspring, sapphire crystals, and straps. And that's it. So we make life very, very hard for ourselves, but we're making a very unique watch. And the key sort of feature of the watch, I suppose, is the coaxial escapement, which obviously George invented and which we've taken on, and we've developed it and improved upon it and worked out a sort of, if you like, a rule book for it. So we can now put it into any watch, and it's proving to be an incredibly efficient escapement, way beyond anything you'll find out there in the industry. And as such, we're increasing our service intervals hugely. And I think currently our service interval is about 15 years.
Wow.
And that's just because of this coaxial escapement and the incredible low power that is needed to drive it. So it's, exciting. Very exciting times.
That's incredible. I've recently done a video on. I've got a new watch, not quite Roger Smith level. I've got an Omega Seamaster, which has the coaxial inside. And when I was doing research on the journey of the coaxial, I was struggling to find out where it lies. Do Omega own the rights, or is it now the point that it's out in the domain and anyone who is able to create it can create it?
Yes, exactly. Yes. So it's out there. Anybody can use it. And Omega became interested in it actually just as the George's patent was running out. And by that time, George was late on in his career. He was very keen to see this escapement out in mass production. And so Omega took it, and he helped them assisted them in putting it into production. So, it's free for everyone to use.
And Mike, what's your story and what do you do?
I'm Mike France, EFC as opposed to OBE, EFC standing for Everton Football Club, of course. But I'm determined to get.
Everyone's switching off now, Mike.
Subscribers are going down.
I suspect it's the only way I'm ever going to get letters behind my name. So I I'm the CEO and co-founder of Christopher Ward, which with two friends of mine, Chris Ward and Peter Ellis, co-founded in 2004, knowing absolutely nothing about the watch industry, but loving watches. After looking inside the watch industry, we were very fortunate to be given some insights into the industry from people we knew embedded into it. We decided that there might be a different way of tackling it. So we decided to be the first pure online player of, in inverted commas, luxury watches at a price point that that business model and our philosophy about pricing allowed us to do. And despite my best efforts over the last now 15 or 16 years, we're still here. And we continue to grow. A big moment for us was in 2014 when we merged with Synergy Horloger. One of our proudest claims to fame is we're reasonably rare, not to the extent that Roger creates his movements, I have to say, but we designed and brought to the world our own movement in 2014, Caliber SH21, which continues to be a centerpiece of what we try and do.
That's brilliant. And I guess being online, COVID, would it be safe to assume that COVID hasn't disrupted things too much?
Difficult to say, in all honesty, Adrian. It's disrupted in lots of ways because we're operating on skeleton staff because of social distancing. But we took the decision very early on that we were the beneficiary, that we weren't a physical retailer, therefore large parts of our business didn't have to close down, and that we were obviously very grateful for. We decided and took the view, and this is something that I've sort of felt all the way back through my career, that in these times, no matter what they are, deep recessions, COVID-influenced recessions, most people's first reaction is to go on the back foot, because these are quite traumatic events. What happened to all of us back in March was very traumatic to individuals, traumatic to families, traumatic to businesses, traumatic to whole economies, traumatic to the world. And the natural inclination, therefore, is to pause and probably step back. We paused, thought what it might be, and saw an opportunity to put the foot on the accelerator and grow market share, because we assumed others would step back. Again, these things are as much luck as good judgment, I often found, but we've been fortunate to grow during the course of the last 12 months. And if you believe the recently published Bain Alta Gamma report about the luxury watch industry, they reckon it's declined by 30%. So it's been a really torrid time for the industry in total, I think, and we've had growth. So it's been a difficult year for all the reasons we all know, but we've had a reasonable time, and a lot of that is due, as you say, to the fact that we're a pure play online. That's
great. That's very promising. That means that the trickle down effect means that I still have a job talking about what you guys are doing.
Yes.
So everyone's happy.
Yeah.
So let's talk about why we've got you here. So we've got two completely different ends of the watchmaking spectrum, and certainly the UK watchmaking spectrum. So you guys have created an alliance. Roger, can you talk us through what this alliance is and how it came about?
Yes, certainly. So we launched this alliance back in November of last year. It's been a few years in the sort of brewing, as it were, and I've been mulling over ideas with our other co-founder, Alistair Audsley, for several years. And I think the reason why this sort of came about was we were just realizing that there is no support for what I believed was a really quite important and emerging market within the UK sector. And there wasn't any representation from the current crop of organizations. I mean, they just have basically different areas which they're focusing on very well. And I think it's in October of 2018, 19, I bumped into Mike at Salon QP. In fact, it's the last Salon QP. And we always used to bump into each other and have a good chat. And this time I was, Mike said, "This isn't very good, is it?" You know, I think we're bemoaning the fact that it's a very empty show. And I was also bemoaning the fact that I felt there was a lot going on out there, and Mike agreed. And we sort of chatted about, you know, what we thought we could do. And we sort of very quickly decided to organize a meeting the following year, in the January of the following year. And let's talk over some of these ideas we had for trying to re-establish British watch and clockmaking. And so, yeah, ideas very quickly came together, and we built a website. And as I say, we launched in November with the sort of primary goals of promoting British watch and clockmaking around the world, provide a very powerful voice for our sector, to champion British provenance, and to encourage British supply chain jobs and technology. They're the sort of our core sort of things we're trying to do. We had an idea of the number of companies who may be interested out there, and you know, the number of potential club members, collectors, and so on who may join. But we really were overwhelmed by the response, particularly from trade members. I mean, it's been astonishing. And I remember we sort of launched, and we hoped privately, we were all talking about how many companies we may get on board. And we sort of thought, well, if we get 12, 13, 14 companies, I think, Mike, we thought we were doing really, really well, and we would be able to, you know, heave a huge sigh of relief and say, well, at least we've not been laughed out of the room. And here we are in February, and we have, I think, almost 40, 45 members, somewhere around there. Trade members, which is just brilliant, isn't it, Mike? It's
fantastic. I mean, and as you say, a huge shock, really. Far more than we expected. So quickly, at least, anyway.
That's amazing. I was at that last Salon QP. I've been to that. That was my third Salon QP, and it was scary how fast it was declining. The size of the event, the amount of brands that were there. There were still some sizable brands with big heritage there, but the attendance was shocking. There were so few people there. And exactly like what you said, Roger, it didn't represent, it didn't represent what was going on in the UK with regards to watchmaking, but also it didn't represent the watch community. It didn't feel like an event that was connecting with the watch community. And from what you're saying, it also wasn't an event that was representative of what you guys are doing. So I guess that's the reason why it's no longer about. Mike, what does this sort of alliance mean for a company like Christopher Ward? What do you hope to get from it, or is it something different from that?
I think hopefully what we get from it, or hope to get from it, is similar to all of the members. I mean, as Roger says, what we're trying to do here, back to your point that you've just mentioned about there's kind of this disparity between the way the sector was being represented and seen, and what the likes of Roger, me, and others knew was going on in the industry. People like yourself would know what's going on in the UK watch and clockmaking sector, which, you know, frankly, if I go back to 2004, 2005, when Christopher Ward started, I mean, there was just a handful of us. And what's happened in that ensuing 15 years is quite remarkable. I mean, it's, you know, we've identified, I mean, we thought we'd identified 50 brands, Roger, didn't we? It looks like there might even be more than that, and there are more than that. Some of them are quite small, but this is one of the most vibrant growth sectors, I think, of the British economy. Yes, it's small, but with the sort of heritage that we have as a nation in watchmaking, with the sort of people that are involved in watchmaking now in this country, because I do think, you know, since the golden age of 200 plus years ago, I doubt that as many talented people have been involved in British watchmaking as are now. And yet it wasn't really being seen or heard as a sector. The people in the sector were disconnected, and therefore even the sector itself didn't see itself as a sector. And therefore, how was it going to grow was the challenge that Roger, Alistair and I sort of set ourselves. How could we enable this whole sector to grow in the understanding and hope that by, Roger's got a great, says often, together we're much more powerful than we are separated. And especially when you're not big as a sector, the power of bringing people together, hopefully, as we are trying to do, will help generate real awareness and real cross-pollination of ideas, of people, of interest to grow this wonderful sector that we're all involved in the UK, both in the UK and worldwide. So effectively, what I hope we get out of it, all of us involved in it, is profitable growth over many years to come. And if we can do our little piece to help and support that, then all the better, because I'm certainly closer to the end of my career than I am to the beginning of it, and Roger's not because he's a youngster, but
don't feel like that when I crawl out of bed.
But so the aim is, as Roger has said, is to promote the industry and to grow it, help it grow. We can't grow it, but help it grow, because it's a stunning industry, really, and those involved in it all the way through it, including people like yourself. And I wasn't part of it till 15 years ago. So, but there's something about watchmaking that sucks you in a way that I think there are certainly other areas that can do this, but they're not that many. This is something that really gets inside your blood, and it's endlessly interesting. There's endless learning to be had. And I hope that one of the things we benefit from is being able to learn from others in the industry as ideas are shared.
With your point about cross-pollination, is this an initiative to help the UK companies work closer together, or have they already been working closely together? And this is just because from an outsider's point of view, it's very easy to see these companies operating in a kind of silo fashion. Was that the case? And is this an initiative to bring them together?
So I think, one of the first things that we're working on now is the bellwether report, which we've asked KPMG to do, and that's basically an in-depth look into the size and scope of our industry. Before we can start sort of talking about ways in which we can advance it, we need to find out what it actually consists of. So we're working with KPMG to put a list of questions together, and they're also using their own expertise to build a list of questions which will be sent out to all the watch and clock making companies throughout Britain. And when the report comes back, we hope we'll have some newsworthy information to share with everyone. My particular interest, as you know, is engineering and so on. And what I hope it may show is various, we all know that there are manufacturing weaknesses within horology in Britain, but it'll be great to be able to put some figures on that. And I've mentioned a few times, we could be surprised by the volume of watches being made or sold out of Britain. And it could be that, there could be 50, 60,000, 100,000 stainless steel cases that are required in Britain every single day. And suddenly that gives somebody the key information to maybe seriously thinking about investing into buying equipment to make cases. And that's just a small snapshot of the possibilities that could come out of this. We're we are linking into educational bodies within the UK. And again, are the students that are being produced in the UK enabling the sector to grow? Are they overqualified? Are they underqualified? We simply just don't know at the moment. Nobody can give us any figures as to what's going on in Britain in terms of watch and clock making. And we hope that this bellwether report will provide those answers for us. And we'll be doing this year on year, because in order to demonstrate the failings of what we're doing or the success of what we're doing, you need to keep doing this in order to try and grow the sector. So, that's a particular exciting sort of area for me.
That is exciting, because you're absolutely right. There might be an area where actually, because we do still have a steel industry. All these things might be small, but it is still here. And you might be able to, with this report, go to someone and say, hey, look, there's a strong case to say we can make a profitable infrastructure in the UK to manage. Obviously, you want to have this stuff in-house as much as possible, but that's a bigger investment than going to Bob down the road who already has all the CNC machines and stuff.
It's a really good point. And the fact of it is that one of the trends that I think is going to accelerate in the world anyway is insourcing. So back to globalization is great, but it does have its downsides, as we've just seen for the past 12 months. That I do think one of the natural accelerated trends as a result of that will be, where possible, countries will look to bring as much that is economically viable inside their own borders. Now, at the moment, we are not naive, and we know that the plans for this in terms of the watch sector and the clock sector in this country may take a generation or more to evolve, and may evolve into certain specific areas. And my own view of this is that I think a country is best placed to take advantage of what it's really great at. And I think what we're really great at is, I think we're great entrepreneurs. I think, therefore, the exemplar of, say, Formula One, which is at the pinnacle of automotive engineering, is perhaps a place that we could occupy going forward at some point in watch and clock making. Whether or not we end up being a volume manufacturer, that will depend. I'm completely agnostic about, by the way, in terms of I'd much rather be buying cases down the road in Maidenhead than anywhere else, than in China or anywhere else. Yeah, but it has to be at an economically viable level, and I think that could take some time. But what has already happened with just the early sharings of putting watch and clock makers together, I learned something only a few weeks ago talking to one of our members, that they have spare capacity in CNC machines like you've no idea. That it's like they're just sitting there idle. And these are capable of producing components for watches. And now, so your point about people operating in silos, I think is a good one. I think not through necessarily, and I think not intentionally necessarily, but there's been no vehicle that allows people, other than the odd show, to really talk to each other. If you give permission to people and give them a place that they can come together and share stuff, incredibly, most people are open to that. Yeah, I'm pleased to say.
That's brilliant.
And therefore, that sort of information will become more and more useful to help things grow. So I think, and I know that's one of Roger's great desires of the Alliance, is this cross-pollination, this transfer of information to everybody's benefit. There will be some things that we want, that people will want to keep in silos, because you don't want to threaten your own business. But by and large, what we have discovered since we launched, and I think this is the reason that there are 45 members and hopefully growing beyond that, is there's a great hunger for this sort of alliance to exist, this sort of sharing, this sort of place of gathering where people can bring information, take information back, etc., etc. And I just think, fortunately, it just feels like it's almost the apposite time for this to happen. I would love to walk into Selfridges or Watches of Switzerland at some point in the future and see a proper British section that is brought together with and celebrates what that's all about. And I don't think any of them have ever really thought about it before, because they don't know what the shape of it is. And as Roger says, when we start delivering in, and when KPMG start delivering in some of the information from the Bellwether report, that will be the first time ever that anybody's been able to put their arms around this and say, look, this is how big it is, or how small it is, and this is how many mechanical watches are being sold, this is how many quartz watches are being sold, this is how much are made in this country. This is the information is, knowledge is power, as you say, and I think the sharing of this is going to be really important, even beyond the watchmaking community itself, because the retailers of watches on and offline can take advantage of promoting British watchmaking in this country, and then that can be then implanted abroad.
I think that's brilliant. I think the whole idea is exciting, but especially that report, because the numbers can't lie. when you have that report, and exactly you can see where the weaknesses are, but hopefully there'll be lots of strengths there to prove points on X, Y, Z. I think that's brilliant. We can become members, can't we? As Watch Geeks, there's a membership system. So what do we get when we become members?
You get your Roger Smith.
I get my own Roger Smith.
Just a pin.
It's a pin badge, but I mean, it is designed by the great man himself. So I mean,
Amazing.
and you get a certificate that's signed by Roger and I.
So
I mean, what more do you want?
And then there's access to these talks as well, and isn't there? You get access to the presentations, which are going to be four presentations a year.
Well, and maybe more over time, but yes, all of that. And as you know, as Roger says, we're continually working on trying to improve the benefits to members, club members in particular. And hopefully shortly we'll be announcing some additions to the membership package.
Please just come and join. I mean, as I say, it is an evolving platform, and at the moment you will get a pin badge, which I have one here. Very nice pin badge, and a certificate. But there is going to be a lot more on offer, and I think for me the take-home thing is, you know, as I said earlier on in our chat, where we thought we'd be doing well if we got 15 trade members on board, and here we are sitting today with 40 plus. And what I'm looking forward to doing is learning a lot more about these companies. And it doesn't matter what price bracket you're collecting, you know, leads you into, whether it's hundreds of pounds or hundreds of thousands of pounds. There's room for everyone out there, and it's all interesting. And I think what's coming across is this group of British watch and clockmakers are so diverse, you know, and they have all got original stories. And one of our co-founders, Nicholas from Fears Watches, you know, he's restarted a long lost family business. And there's Vertex, who's also recently joined, and again, they've done the same. But again, you know, there's lots of real stories out there, you know, so we have people who are making their own enamel dials and so on, or they just have interesting stories as to why they've decided to make watches and clocks. And another thing that surprised me is the small, probably the largest proportion have not come from within the watch industry. You know, these are people who, for some reason, just think, well, let's go and make some watches. I mean, perfect example is Mr. Jones watches. You know, very successful business, really interesting watches, very exciting Instagram feed, very exciting website. And there's just such a lot of so many original stories out there, which I think people will really engage with. And so, yes, please do click on our website and join, become a club member today.
Yeah.
Good sell. Did you want to do a wrist check, Adrian?
Yeah, we should have done that at the start. What are you wearing on your wrist? What watch have you got on?
Well, I've got on a C60 Blue, which is a watch that we, I don't know if you can see it. This is
there it is.
One of the early prototypes, which is a watch that we're making no profit on at all. It's all the profit is going to the Blue Marine Foundation, who we have a close relationship with. What their aim in life is to enhance the health of our oceans. I'm pleased to say we did a limited edition of 500 pieces, which we launched in November, and it'll have sold out probably by the end of March. It will raise close to $250,000 for them.
Wow!
Which is for a little business like us, as a contribution, is I'm quite proud of the guys for what they've done there. So
awesome.
That's brilliant. And Roger, what have you got on?
I've got my usual Explorer, my usual sort of knock-around watch.
Good man.
But yeah, so yes. I think you've seen it a few times before, Adrian.
Yeah, I'm very chuffed that's your watch. I've got mine.
Is it the same reference, Adrian?
It's the
nice.
slightly newer one.
Okay.
The double 14270. Very cool watch. Patrick, what have you got on?
I've got my new Hamilton, the little khaki 38mm.
Oh yeah,
Very nice.
yeah,
For
very
me.
nice.
So it's my first watch with a decent sort of power reserve, 80 hours. So yeah, enjoying that very much.
That's
Very
pretty
nice.
yeah.
Lovely.
And then I've just got my Seamaster, which I probably should have worn my Explorer so we had matching watches. I wore this.
Too far.
That would have been a bit creepy, Adrian.
That's me through and through. Creepy. I don't have a British watch, so I thought my coaxial was the closest thing to closest
Needs
thing
to
to
be
a British
sorted.
watch. Chaps, thanks so much for joining us. And
Pleasure.
having a chat.
Pleasure.
I think it's
Really
very
good.
exciting
Thank you.
what you're doing, both within your companies, but also with this alliance. I think it's a brilliant initiative. Mike and Roger, thanks so much for your time. I appreciate
Pleasure.
it.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Cheers,
Thank you.
guys.
All the best.
Bye now.
Guys, thanks so much for watching. Thanks to Mike and to Roger for joining us and spending so much time talking, and to Patrick for helping out. Drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think of this alliance and if you have any questions about it. If you want to watch more videos, click up here. If you want to subscribe, click that little thing down there. If you want to check out the watch straps and watch accessories, jump over to barkandjack.shop or barkandjack.com. Finally, if you're on Instagram, give me a follow at barkandjack. That's down there as well. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.